Well, good afternoon. It's Alex Hall of Alex Hall Realty, and today we've got a real privilege. We've got Ms. Robyn Hawke from Inspired Spaces, and today we're here to talk about design and renovations of the home and your personal space. So, Robyn, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Alex. It's a real pleasure.
Okay, well, today let's start off with a fairly obvious question. How did you get into the business?
Oh, it's a bit of a long story. I left school winning 2 scholarships into teaching. So I did teaching for 20 years. I taught design, so it wasn't totally left field. But it really wasn't my passion. And for various family reasons, I stayed there longer than I should have. And it got to the point where I couldn't stand it any longer, resigned from my teaching position and started a 3-year full-time design course to get my interior design qualifications. And that's, at this point in time, it's really important to say the industry is unregulated. So our problem with the industry is because you've got an ABN, you can call yourself an interior designer. So that's a real issue with the industry, and that's why it's important to speak to people who actually are qualified.
Well, I'm glad you asked that. You made that point because I was going to ask you later, if people are looking for someone to design or renovate their home, how could they find someone who's how can they know that they're really qualified? How can they know that they've chosen the right one?
Well, they've got to do your due diligence. You need to look up their, obviously start off their website, look if it looks professional, are they here for the long term, etc. Check that their qualifications are correct and not just basically a piece of paper that they've printed off themselves. Do your due diligence, ask to have references, speak, don't just get written references because anyone can write a glowing written reference, you can do it yourself. So you actually speak to the people that you've worked with previously. They need to speak to the trades that you work with to understand how you work and why they're working, and things like make sure they've got professional indemnity, public liability insurance. I actually have a checklist of how to employ a qualified interior designer. It's on the free stuff on my website, www.inspiredspaces.com.au. Just free, and it's a 10-point checklist to make sure that you're employing a person that meets your needs.
Okay, I'm really glad you asked the question about the 10-point stuff because that's very useful for a lot of your future clients. I suppose another question that I think would be really helpful is, now that you're in the business, what for you is the most personally satisfying thing? But if I could put that another way, do you have any testimonies from really satisfied clients who've just written to you or something and just really spoken positively about how your work has affected their lives?
Oh yeah, I have no problems getting testimonials. People are happy to do it. Not so keen to get on video and do it, but they're keen to write them. I've had a strata management office fit out in town, and they actually have to kick the staff out now because they love the space so much. It was so successful that the new building managers of the building have used that as a space that they show people, prospective lessees, what the space will going to look like, what you could possibly do with a room that they've got there. So that's there. I've got other people who've written things like, "You've changed my life."
Wow, that's a big comment.
Yeah, just changing. You don't even need paragraphs with that sort of comment. "You've changed my life," because you're home. I don't know if you've ever been in a space where you dread coming home. You do everything to not come home into that space, or you dread everything, you not do anything to walk into that workspace. And the physical environment affects you emotionally as well as physically in terms of functionality. So it's very important to do that. And if you can create that, the testimonial's going to come anyway.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. Because I think you've told me in previous conversations that there are 2 reasons for that people might renovate. One of them is passion, and the other one is profit. And I think what you're talking about at the moment is passion.
Oh yeah, definitely with passion. If you're renovating for profit, it's a totally different approach. Profit is about creating aesthetics, functionality, and quick turnover, quick capital gain, quick return on investment. Whereas for passion, it's often you're to live for, die for house, somewhere where you'll stay for ages, and you don't mind spending a little bit more money on quality inclusions, a little bit more money, making it individualised, doing your purple wall in the kids' bedroom if you want. Whereas if you're doing it for profit, those sort of decisions are swayed by more generic decisions.
Yeah. I want to ask, for people who think about building their dream home and then wanting to stay and play, as I like to put it, do you think that they should have a maximum budget in mind relative to the area, or would you say to those sort of people who just want to build their dream home, no, go for it as much as you like?
It's one of those multifaceted answers. Yes, go for it, but at the same time, you wouldn't build a $2 million home in an area that, the average sale price is $900K. Yeah. That's stupidity. Yeah. However, if you're in an area that the average sale price is, your 1.52 million, which is around Castle Hill at the moment, sort of becoming standard pricing. Yeah. If you spend another, it takes it into 2.5 or even the 3, if it's something that you're staying here for 20 odd years and it's going to meet all your needs and do what you want and take into account. I've got a client at Mount Riverview who's done his To Die For house. It is 3 levels, but they've actually put a lift in. So the lift is so that they have taken into account each stages of their life cycle and going, well, we can stay here forever, but we've got the lift for when we need it. Yeah. We've made sure all the doors are wide enough to fit a wheelchair if we need to. If it comes to that, it doesn't mean you're going to, but they've taken all those issues into account. There's no thresholds to go over. In terms of going down, it'd be easy to wheelchairs or walkers or whatever you need to do that. Now, they have spent more than probably what the whole market area is for Mount Riverview, but that's what they want, and they made that informed decision, and they're not worried about it because that means they can stay there forever. Yeah,
that's very clever designing, I would say.
Very, very much. And they did. This process took a couple of years, and they looked at carefully what they wanted and how they wanted it, and everything's also automated, so they don't have to worry about opening handles and all those sort of things. So they're really thought through the process.
Yeah. Okay. Well, for the benefit of any of my future clients who are potentially thinking about selling, and they're thinking maybe they should clean up and renovate for sale, what are your thoughts in relation to how much money they should be prepared to spend?
Again, this is do due diligence, find out what the typical spend is in the area, and anything between 10 to 20%, 20% absolute maximum, especially if you're doing an immediate sale. If you're looking at doing something for my own home, for instance, we'll be downsizing in the next few years.
I'm available.
Of course. When the youngest leaves university, when she finishes university, we'll probably end up downsizing. But we've done some major renovations last year with the mind that, yes, it suits us. It's got my personality. I'm an interior designer. I do not want boring, bland, beige. Yeah. So, yes, and I know that when we do sell it, I'll have to tweak a few things and change a few colours because it won't appeal to everybody, but we're doing it. But I'm enjoying the renovation. So I've made these renovations, put the investment in. I'm enjoying it because I know it's going to be 3 or 4 years before I sell, but it will still be modern and it'll still appeal. If I'm looking at turning this over in the next 6 months, well, then I'm obviously trying to keep that 20% down to at least 10 to 15% if you can.
Yeah, okay, well, that makes perfect sense. If people are wanting to sell immediately and their house is basically functional but needs a bit of a clean-up, would you say something as simple as fresh paint and new carpets would be appropriate?
Absolutely, definitely, because people buy on emotion. So if the first thing they see is a positive, they will actually look through that house looking for positives. If the first thing they see is a negative, and that means as soon as they drive up to the curb, they will come in there looking for negatives. And so that will be talking themselves out of the space or using it as negotiation to reduce the pricing. So it's really, really important. A classic example is, I think it would have been about 2 years ago before the market really exploded. A client's elderly parents had to go into assisted care literally overnight, and the duplex hadn't been done any work for it for years because they weren't in a physical state to be able to do it. So we spent $10,000 on it, and they got $100,000 return on investment over the original valuation price, and sold it first showing.
Wow.
Yeah, and we did a paint job, a carpet job. We rearranged all the furniture. They had the advantage there was 5 kids, so they did a lot of the labour and a lot of the cleaning up. And they actually sort of lent some of the furniture as well, the more modern furniture that appealed. So vital, absolutely vital. That you do things, and it can be even repositioning. So a little trick we did on this particular place was where the TV outlet was, it really didn't work, and people have no imagination. So what we did was we flipped it around. Now people didn't really know the TV didn't work in that position, but in terms of sales, and that doesn't mean you're being dishonest, because it means that you can rewire into that position, but people can't imagine that. So it's really, really important that you do that. And you do simple things like if the bathroom tiles are totally in good condition, but they're ugly or out of date, you can put a simple tile paint over it. As long as you do your prep well, it lasts for years and you'll get a brand new look.
Well, actually, I was going to ask, speaking of bathrooms, if people are going to do minor works renovation, what do you think is more important, kitchens or bathrooms or both? And if they've got, to ask you 2 questions, if they've got one that's really good but the other one not so good, what would your thoughts be? So if you've had a really great kitchen but bathrooms are a little bit dated, what would your advice be?
Well, definitely address the bathrooms with suggestions I just said. Things like if you've got gold taps. So, for instance, if you're a lot of houses around the Hills District built 80s and 90s, so they'll have the gold trim taps, the water wastes in gold, etc. Now, very easy to swap them over to a chrome, to a lever handle rather than a knob is tend to be. Change the handles on the vanities. You can paint laminate cupboards really, really well. So paint them if they're in good nick. Paint the walls, as I said, the tiles, sorry. And even if they've got a texture or a pattern on it, it actually creates a really nice interest because you're covering the pattern, but you've still got the texture happening. Things like change your shower from most of the showers in that time was framed, so change it to a semi-frameless shower. So you'll get the look of that frameless shower, which is really what people love, at half the cost. You save yourself about $1,000 by making it semi-frameless. And if you're on for sale, that's what you do. And then you do things like get rid of all the shampoo out of the niches, get rid of all the soap scum, buy some really fluffy white towels that are only used on open day, have them there, make sure the bathroom, I've been into a few homes where we've done some styling for sale, and less than pleasant smells are happening with young children that have missed the toilet, etc. Those sort of things are really, really important that you address and do that.
Accidents happen.
Yeah, and they do. And you've got young kids, and really you overlook smells and design flaws if you live there a long time and you don't notice it. So that's probably one of my hardest parts of my job sometimes is suggesting that maybe we need a bit of perfume in here type thing. But they're the sort of key things that are really important. So address it. You don't have to spend a fortune.
Okay, well, your questions have been really helpful. Your answers to questions have been really, really helpful. But if any of my future clients or any of our viewers want to take this further, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Directly on 0401 068 670 or Robyn with a Y, ROBYN, at inspiredspaces.com.au, or ring you and us for me.
Okay. Well, great advice. Well, thanks for joining us today. I hope you have a wonderful day. This is Alex Hall from Alex Hall at Realty signing out, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks so much.
Okay, that worked.